After the Cavs' recent loss to the Knicks, there seems to be some folks who think JB should be fired. Do you agree with that sentiment?
I don't agree with the sentiment. I understand the frustration. I think that JB should definitely get a leash this season, the rest of the season for sure, because he's a heck of a coach and he's been managing the players on this team really well and the egos on the team really well. He got a superstar in Donovan Mitchell right before the season started and has really been able to mold him, bring him in and mold him into the rest of the team, and everybody's getting along well. So if there was more frustration on the court that we were seeing or lack of effort, I would definitely be more concerned with the coaching. But just because the team is not executing well in certain moments doesn't mean that it's all on JB. Some of that's just on the players. That being said, I will say one concern that I have, because you and I have brought it up in the past, is he has a lot of mouths to feed on this team. He's getting Dean Wade back, he has Dean Wade back. He's going to be getting, he's trying to bring Rubio in here. And he's trying to bring all these people back and have the rotations work. And I think that's going to be a really big challenge for him. And the one knock on JB that worked for him last year, that has been a knock on him historically, is he really relies on veterans in certain instances. And I'm keeping an eye on that, because you and I have talked about how Isaiah Mobley and Diakite are both really solid players. They're doing well in the G League, and JB needs to handle what's going on with Kevin Love's lack of good play in a good way that allows maybe some younger players, even if it's Wade or Stevens, more time on the floor. So that's kind of, it's a both and.
Got it. Yeah, it feels premature to me. Obviously, there's a lot of people that think that we should win it all this year. And I even said that, there was a slight possibility of it. But that's just being, a hometown guy and, wanting the Cavs to go for it all. But
let me just say real quick, that's not just you. I listen to a lot of national podcasts, and there are a lot of NBA writers who feel this team is a sneaky finals team if they all mold. So don't think that you're just having a hometown bias. Sorry.
Okay. Well, I know that was a part of it, but yeah, it seems like for once the national media wants to join the bandwagon as well. Unfortunately, it's just too early to do that. And I go back in my own mind to the beginning of the year when we got Mitchell, and Altman and JB in their press conference talked about how this season is about finding out what kind of team we can be together. And we really have no expectations beyond that. Winning record, losing record, making the playoffs, not making the playoffs. Obviously, with a team of this kind of talent and promise, you don't want to see them miss the playoffs this year.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't necessarily sound the alarm if they did, only because from day one, and this has been something I've had to kind of take a pause and really digest. From day one, this team has basically been losing games until the fourth quarter all season long. And they would have a losing record if it wasn't for them being the best fourth quarter team in the league. So I've got to give a little bit to the coaches of their rallying cries that they give at halftime, and JB prodding these guys to give more effort throughout the game so that by the time the fourth quarter comes along, they're still with it enough to challenge the opponent and squeeze one out, right? JB, for me, has earned the longest leash, at least until sometime into next season. And that's simply because looking at the last 2 years prior, he's been slowly building this team back to prominence. And I don't always love the way he manages his minutes. I don't always love the way he favors certain veterans, as you said. But that's micromanaging a head coach's decision that I'm not on the court making those decisions with him. I might do something similar or worse or better. Who knows?
Yeah.
So probably worse. So
a lot worse.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, he's gone 22-50 his first season, 38-29 44 and 38 his second season, and 29-20 in this season. So he's headed in the right direction. He's got amazing players on this team, but that's a lot to figure out in one season when they'd been game planning for guys that they lost right at the beginning of the year. So I think everybody needs to calm down. If by this time next year we're still struggling in this way, then I think you have to talk about not only replacing the head coach, but also replacing certain key players that are just not working out with Donovan Mitchell. Because I don't think you get rid of Mitchell. You find a way to build a team around him. So.
Yeah, I think that you're right, and I'm not concerned about him. It's more of, especially coming off of the Knicks game, the bench was so putrid, and it's veterans that are all playing together that are on the bench, essentially. It's Rubio, Love, LeVert. All those guys have been in the league for 8 years at least. And the fact that they couldn't perform well together is a big issue, and I just think that I can understand the fans' angle of thinking a little, just being kind of like, what's going on here? Why aren't we bringing in some other type of younger player, or having Wade or even Jetty have more of a shot in respect to getting more minutes? But he is still doing much better than anyone can even fathom. You or I would be so bad at coaching, but I think that I totally agree with you in the sentiment of, let's give him the year, go in the next year. The only concern I would really have, even if he is playing veterans more, is if some reports came out where the relationship with Mitchell and him was some weird thing. Just because this is such a player-driven league, then that would be another kind of issue. But I don't see that happening.
Yeah, and I feel like in some ways this season the team has kind of given up on their defensive mentality that I've seen them have in previous years. Typically with the JB squad, they start the year really strong defensively. And granted, they're holding their opponents to an average of 107.2 points a game, which is the best in the league. The problem is they're shooting 111.5 points a game, which is 26th in the league. So they're not shooting very well. They're playing defense okay, but we're talking about it on the next extra clips or extra shots video, but if they can't defend the three in key moments and they continue to come out the gate really slow, it's just not going to be a successful season. And that's not on JB completely for lack of effort or the ability to start games strong. These guys go out there, they're the ones playing the game, and he's on the sideline screaming for them to give more effort. If they don't, they don't.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to the Cavaliers Basketball Club podcast. Let's go Cavs!